Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
How are you doing today?
I'm good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. Welcome to Warm and Cozy Quilting. I'm Jason.
I'm Victoria.
Hi, Victoria.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Good, yeah. Happy days. All right, so it's Saturday morning. You did it.
Woo!
You made it through the week. I'm proud of you. Congratulations. Danielle and Sadie are in Salt Lake City doing some
Hi, Mom.
handy quilter training. Hi, Mom. Danielle, my wife. How are you going to treat me like that? Man, that's messed up.
I thought you knew.
My mom is here. She's working today because she's awesome. She's cool like that. You gotta work sometimes to support your hobbies and your habits.
Yep.
Grandkids are habits. You do things with them.
Unfortunately.
So they take you money.
Sorry, Grandma.
It's okay. We love her. She's awesome. Anyway, so we're here. We are, as always, going to talk to you about quilty-related topic today. Specifically today, we're going to talk about how can I help my Longarmer?
Yep, because that's important.
Sometimes we drop our quilts off with the Longarmer, and we're like, boy, I hope they don't hate me. And I only know this, we don't, but I know this because this is what people tell me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. I've never even given that impression, but that's okay. Sometimes our own brain gets ahead of us. Mm-hmm. That's how it goes.
It's okay.
So that's all right. We'll talk about it, give you a couple tips and hints that help you feel more confident when you drop that off with the Longarmer, knowing they're not going to judge you near at all, if they would anyway.
And if they do, come see us instead.
We'll do a better job and not judge. We're not judgmental like that. We love people. It's fine. So if you're hanging out there with us, please, by all means, feel free to say hello and hi. We're here. We're with you. We're talking. It's fun to have the interaction because today, running the camera is...
us.
Me. I'm on it. That's my job. I'm Sadie because, again, Sadie's...
And I have...
You have my notes and comments over there.
Notes and comments over here.
So say hi. We'll say hi to everybody because that is our routine here.
And while you're saying hi, because I know that you're on Facebook and Instagram and whatever. The shop has recently started posting TikToks.
TikTok.
And they're just fun and they're just cute. So I want your input. I want to know what you're feeling, if you're liking them.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of hearts and likes and stuff.
I've been asking recently for people to use those reacts at the bottom of the screen, and you guys are doing it, and I thoroughly appreciate it. Because again, we have a camera, and it is not very friendly.
It's kind of boring.
It just stares at us.
It's just a
But let's talk about that TikTok thing for a minute. You're spearheading that. You are trying to get us more in the TikTok-y realm with the videos and the little short what happenings.
Trying to get cool with the kids.
You did the one the other day with what your favorite bolt is. I think that's my personal favorite. I think because I teleported in the video, which was fun. It's new technology. It may be out next year. We'll see how, if I can get it patented or not.
So excited about the teleporting.
It was fun. It was exciting.
It was fun and exciting.
So yeah.
Anyway, so if you're enjoying it, let me know.
Please, all sorts of feedback's always appreciated.
Yes.
We'll use what we can, and we'll not use what we don't.
That's going on a t-shirt.
Right. That was very, very
inspiring.
Yeah.
Yes.
Words. John Madden-esque. All right, so we got some people saying hi. Let's say hello to who's out there for now.
Okay.
I'll let you because you got the
Good morning, Miss Deborah 2.0.
2.0 over in Tennessee. Hello, good morning.
Miss Jackie in Indiana. Humid and hot. That's gross.
Oh man, that left here and it's still here. Like it's absorbing the whole Midwest.
It's awful.
Ugh. Stay inside, stay cool, work on that quilt project. Safer.
Good morning, Miss Pam from Alabama.
Always hot in Alabama. I think. I feel like that would be the case. It's a southern state.
It's a southern state. I would assume it's warm.
Right.
Good morning, Miss Diane.
Hello, Diane. She'll be here this coming week for a class.
Yay!
Are you going to be here for that class? Danielle is teaching the Nova this week.
Ooh.
Super fantastic quilt. It's easy. It's a stripology-based pattern, GE Designs. It looks wildly difficult, but man, it is super friendly.
So not at all.
It's great. Danielle's done several of them.
Sure has.
And they're beautiful. And they're gone because she gifts them all the time.
Sure does.
Okay.
And good morning, Christy.
Good day.
Hello.
All right. So, again, feel free to jump on anytime. If you have questions, thoughts, concerns, always make sure you comment along with us because, again, we'll address them while we're here. And then after the video, we will, of course, do the same. Also, while you're watching, if you would please use those reacts. If you hear something you love, if you hear something that makes life better for you, all those things help us. Also, don't forget to hit the share button because your friends need to know this information, especially if you're a Longarmer and you're like, I don't know how to tell them. They need to, square that up a little bit. Let them know. I'll give them some information today. It'll make their life better for you. And if you're over there on the YouTube watching us, because I know you're over there, I can see how many viewers I have. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button at the bottom. It's free, it's easy, it helps us, and you can always unsubscribe at any time. I don't know why you would, though. I mean,
I don't know why you would either.
I don't know why that makes you laugh so much every time.
Every single time.
That's what all the YouTubers say. It's their spiel. That's how they go. So I'm a fancy YouTuber, so that's what we do.
Right. So since we're fancy YouTubing.
It's just easier to find videos on YouTube. We stream these to Facebook and YouTube on Saturday mornings. We've had so much great information.
I just had a great idea. I'll tell you.
And it's really hard to re-find it on Facebook, so YouTube is really the way to go. Mm-hmm. Are you going to tell everybody?
I can post the TikToks onto YouTube Reels.
Girl, for real?
And I haven't been doing that.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome. Okay, well, here we come with the TikToks.
On YouTube, you're going to get the TikToks also.
Fantastic. You're welcome. And good morning, Dolores. Southern Illinois represent. Love her. It's awesome. They're always fun when they pop on. And I always make a deal of it. We are Southern Illinois also. They're just slightly southerner. Just slightly.
Yeah,
all right, so a couple things to talk about before we get into these super helpful tips. Mm-hmm. I've got All Illinois Shop Hop is coming.
It's coming.
It's coming. It will be here. August is like a month away.
That's crazy.
It is not far.
That's wild.
I know. Half the year is gone already. All Illinois Shop Hop, August, September 2024. It is, magazines are available now. Mm-hmm, we have the magazines in the shop. You can come in and pick your magazine up now. Start planning. There are 72 shops participating this year, including the shop in Anna. Miss Dolores, that might be your neck of the woods. You might not even know that shop. Mm-hmm. So they're participating, which is really kind of nifty. So we're not the Southern Estate shop anymore.
Right. Yes.
So you got to go a little farther south. But then the shops go all the way up to the north side of Illinois. So the Chicagoland, Northwest, they're everywhere. It's great. Good way to see all the shops.
Good way to see the whole state too.
Really, I mean, it's pretty out there. There are some shops that are in the state that aren't participating, but that's the shop's own decision. Mm. But you might hear or find out about them on your journey, so maybe that gives you an additional little shop to just jump into and check out. So it's fun. If you don't know what a shop hop is, by all means, come by and talk to us. We'll help you out with that. Yeah, shirts are coming. They're going to be pink.
They're going to be pink.
So excited. You can pre-order that now on our website along with the binders that are going to be needed for the patterns that we're getting this year. Mm-hmm. Everybody will get a free little pattern at each shop for a specific block. Instead of a block, you can actually make your own little block. And remember that shop. Ugh, words. All right. So, Illinois Shop Hop.
Uh-huh.
Do it.
Cool.
HQ event. I do have an HQ event coming up in July.
Ooh.
15th, 16th, 17th, 18th. It's 2 days, hands-on, lots of information. It's going to be a good time.
I think
it's $150 for the 2 days. It includes lunch. I could be wrong, but I think maybe it's $200. I don't remember now. I shouldn't guess. It's on the website. Go to the classes, Handy Quilter event.
Check that out.
Make sure you sign up for that, especially if you've been considering a long arm. It's a really good time to try one out, learn some information about it. Okay. Sure. What's the other thing I've got here? We already did that class. I don't know why that's on there. Oh, these are old notes.
Oh.
I didn't refresh those notes. They all pertain to the same, so that's cool. I'm done with that.
Okay.
All right, so that's all I got for now. Good morning, Janice. Nice to see you.
Hello.
Morning. Cool. So you ready to get into this then?
I sure am.
Okay. So, like I said, not a lot of times, there are times I have customers come in and drop off their quilt top. Say, all right, make it happen. That's cool. We can do that. That's what Longarmers do. We have a storefront, so it's easier to find us sometimes. A lot of folks do long arming out of their house. Maybe you do your own long arming in your house. That's awesome. Cool. The one thing that I like to point out, though, is that there's sometimes the statement made of, oh, it'll quilt out. You know that statement.
I know this statement.
You've run the long arms. You've done it. You know what that's like. How come that is not true? Do you know why that's not true for us?
Because it just doesn't happen like that. Like,
well, more specifically, so hand quilting and quilting on your domestic machine, you have a lot more control of where those stitches are going.
Right, absolutely.
So with long arming, though, we're attaching quilts to a frame. So they're holding the fabric in place.
Right.
So that fabric has nowhere to hide.
No, it does not.
I'm not really quilting a whole lot out. So if that's been your mantra for a while now, and your long armor loves you, you're a lucky individual. Actually, again, let me rephrase that. I do not speak for all long armors.
Right.
I am indifferent to your skill set. I take whatever quilt you got.
We will make it work either way.
It will be beautiful.
It will be great.
But it will most certainly quilt, but maybe not necessarily
maybe not out.
Maybe not out.
Probably not.
You're right, Pam. Not magicians.
Nope.
I can say abracadabra all day long. Kazam! No, doesn't.
It doesn't have the same effect.
I did not get the pretzel I was hoping for just now, because like I was really trying. I really would love a pretzel right now.
That actually sounds really good.
Doesn't it?
Why don't we?
Anyway, stop it.
Okay.
So it's harder to hide stuff when we're on a long arm. So again, you're taking it to a long arm. Remember that can be its own trouble. And we'll talk about how to kind of resolve that a little bit in a minute here. Okay?
Okay.
So what can you do to make this easier for you?
There are a couple of things.
There are. First off, let's start with your backing. That is the base of your quilt. That is the foundation. That's what your quilt top's going to sit on top of.
It's going to make a big difference.
You don't start with the roof of a house.
That would be weird.
It would be really awkward.
That would be uncomfortable.
That would be magician work.
Yes.
You start with the foundation, which is your backing. So what can we do with backings? What's the two options that we have?
You could get a 108. You
can.
Or you can piece your back.
Correct. Good options. Those are really your two primary options. When it comes to 108s, actually, let's back up one more step. There is another option that some people are adamant fans of, and I am not ignoring it. We're going to just talk about it. Using a sheet as a 108 or as a backing. Can you use a sheet as a backing?
Hypothetically, yes.
You absolutely can.
Absolutely can.
Do we encourage it?
No.
Why not?
Because it's usually they're going to be thinner and they're going to tear, or they're not necessarily going to, they're not going to hold up the way you want them to.
Possibly. The other thing that I like to point out when it comes to sheets, a lot of the times we love those 1,000 count, 2,000 count, thread count sheets. They are soft and silky and smooth and fantastic. Those are really densely woven. And for most quilt fabrics, generally, they run around the 200-ish thread count.
Yeah.
Really big difference. Why is that a problem? Because when we pierce that fabric with the needle to create a stitch, 200, 300 count, it's going to slip between the weave. It's not going to start stabbing and breaking threads.
Yep.
You got a real nice smooth sheet. Guess what? You're breaking threads because that needle's got nowhere to go through. Right. So you're actually asking a little bit more of your machine to make sure it can get through all that material. It will. Your machine don't care. That needle has no brain about it. It don't know. It'll just do its job. But if that's what you have to work with, then that's what you go with.
Right.
However, if you have the option, I would encourage sticking with the 108s. Because again, that looser weave, actually much better results typically.
And we have satines in store that have that nice silky soft feel to them. And they're 118 and they're going to fit most of your large quilts.
Absolutely.
Well.
Absolutely, which is really kind of nice. You get the nice smooth feel and it's big enough and you don't have to worry about, is it going to work? Okay. All right. So let's talk 108s.
All right. 108s.
It's a number. That means it's 108 inches from selvage to selvage. This one is a 108 folded in half. As you can see, that would make it a...
Oh, I hope you're not asking me.
54.
54.
And 54. That's 108 inches, right?
Yes.
From selvage to selvage. Most fabric on bolt is 45. This is obviously larger, makes it easier. Because it's a 108, And for price consistency, they make them slightly lesser weave on them, so they're a little bit more cost effective, and you can get more to work for your back. Okay. Yes. That does not mean they're lesser quality necessarily, maybe a little bit, but not like they're dirt. Right. So when it comes to 108s, we tear our 108s.
We do.
Okay. Why?
Because you're going to get a straighter cut, because you're going to go along the what's the word I'm looking for?
Grain
of the fabric. Going straight of grain with the fabric.
You are. So whenever we get a bolt of fabric, I have something I'm going to flip over to here so you guys can see an image of this. Let me just do that right now. Okay. So I have this super cool backing that I cut off a piece. And as you can see, there's this edge here that is definitely cut with a rotary cutter.
Yep.
And when it comes to us from the manufacturer, they are definitely cut with some sort of razor edge to separate it from the machine, because they ain't got time to tear all that fabric. They just cutting it.
Yeah.
All right. And of course, the top here, I ripped it off its original source of fabric. Can you kind of see what's happening there already?
It's like tapering.
You've already got this like line here, and you've got this line here. And so if you can't tell, those are starting to get a lot closer together. All right. So much so, when I tore this off the bolt, zoop, as it tore, that's where it ended up. Usually I don't have that much discrepancy. I mean, maybe an inch or two. I lost nearly 4 inches of fabric because of that cut edge.
It's wild. Like
this is a prime example of why I tear my backings. And why are they so stretched and distorted like that?
That's a great question.
You don't know the answer? I've told you the story 1,000 times.
I know you have.
Kids, they don't listen to you. I tell you what.
There's so many stories.
There's so many stories. You just don't listen to me anymore. I don't blame you. I would tone out also. As the machines are processing the fabric, the machines are folding it in half.
Right.
Just like our 45s do. But because these are bigger, they fold them in half again.
Sure do.
Then the machines take those and they wind them up. So there's pulling and tugging that are happening.
Yep.
So in that whole process, it's stretching and pulling and distorting this fabric. Well, when we take it off the bolt, if I take a rotary cutter and just go whoop, I'm going to have this unevenness that happens.
Yep.
Unless I tear it, then I get a nice straight line. Okay. So why is it important to tear it? Because you need a specific amount of material for your backing. Yeah, I'm doing the whole lot of overhead stuff today. Are you guys okay with that?
I'm okay with
Give me some emotions here. Give me some reactions. If we got angry faces, maybe I'll stop. Or maybe it's just hot outside.
It is really hot outside.
Okay, so when it comes to your backing, you got your quilt top. It's squarish.
Squarish.
Your backing is going to go behind it. The important thing to remember is that you always want, we ask for, at least 4 inches of material all the way around your quilt top. Okay, so 4 inches on the back, here, here, here. This is your quilt top. Okay, so if your quilt top is 40 by 50, what size does your backing need to be?
48 by 58.
That's right, 48 by 58.
Cause math.
Okay. This will help your Longarmer have something to hold on to when they attach it to the frame.
Yes.
All right. Now, something that came up in a class for me the other day, I asked for the 4 inches top and bottom. This is more descriptive, just so you understand that I need that 8 inches either direction of bigger than your quilt top. When we load this on the frame, I don't have to, I don't necessarily just let 4 inches of fabric hang out at the top.
Yeah.
I will align your top as close to your quilt top as high up on that backing as I can. Just so that way you have more material at the bottom that you could use for something else later.
Right.
Okay. But it gives us that safety net to make sure that if something's not straight, if something's not square, then we have room to wiggle.
Yes.
Because wiggle room is important.
Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle.
That's kind of how I dance. I just wiggle. I don't know what to do. My legs don't move. But 4 inches on all 4 sides. This is also true for batting.
Yes.
I try to keep at least 4 inches on either side, again, so that batting doesn't shift and move around on us. So you have the room to work with it, okay? I have talked to other Longarmers that said, I prefer only 3. Talk to your Longarmer and find out what they prefer.
Yes.
Okay? The other thing is know that Sides for sure 4. But if you have bought a 108, let's say my top was 40 by 50 and I have a 108, this extra at the bottom doesn't matter. You don't have to tear that off so long as they have that width to work with.
Right.
Okay. Because again, generally most quilts are loaded to the frame, top and bottom.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions on that part of it, guys? Raise your hands if you do. Actually, go ahead and comment if you have any questions because I can't see you raise your hands.
Can't see it.
I can't.
I believe
We're not there
though.
with technology yet.
Right.
Someday. All right. Good deal. Let's go back over here.
Cool.
Clean up the mess on the screen. Hi there. Okay. So that's with your 108s. Is there anything else we need to know about 108s?
I don't think so.
Okay. So I did make a note also about pre-washing 108s.
Yes.
Okay. Here's the deal. We don't pre-wash 108s. If you come into my store and you drop off your quilt top and you pick out a 108 off of our shelf and we're going to use it, I don't pre-wash that. Okay. Most 108s will shrink generally consistently with your top if you didn't pre-wash your pieces you pieced with. But if you are an avid pre-washer, always be consistent. Pre-wash your stuff, pre-wash, do all the pre-washing. If you don't, there's only a few exceptions that I've run into.
Okay.
One of them is flannel.
Yeah.
If you're going to use flannel backing, be mindful that flannel tends to like to shrink up a little bit more than just your standard cottons in our quilting world. So if you're going to use those, just be mindful of it. If you want to pre-wash that, not a bad idea. Also make sure you're using color catchers at that point just the same because why wouldn't you? You should use color catchers anytime you wash a quilt. Don't ever trust a fabric. I don't. I had one eyeballing me the other day, and fabric doesn't have eyes.
It was really scary.
Intimidated. Anyway, pre-wash if you feel it's need to. There are Longarmers out there that I have talked with that will not take a quilt and will not load it unless it's been washed. Reason for that is because some backings, 108s, have a lot of sizing in it, starch, if you will, stuff that gives it a little bit more rigidity. It's tough to work with as a Longarmer. The other tough part of that is once it comes off the frame, the stitches on the back look and have the appearance of not great stitches. It's more to do with the way the fabric is finished. The stitches are fine, but if I look at it and I'm like, oh, these stitches are terrible, you need to rip it out and start over. The Longarmer might actually come across the table at me, and I don't need that in my life.
Nope.
But like I said, some Longarmers have run into that, and they will not take it unless it's been pre-washed. Again, talk with whoever does your Longarming and find out how they prefer it to be done. If they don't have a preference, use that just simple tool of making sure it's big enough. Okay? Awesome.
Cool.
What's next? 45s. Let's talk about backings. Oh, I was going to do that. I didn't do that.
Dang it.
Dang it, Bobby. Okay, so.
Okay.
45s. We all have used 45s. We have found the gnome. I need that gnome on my back. Or I need those pretty flowers on the back.
I thought you were... Keep going. You said gnome, and I thought it was like a certain tool, and I'm like...
I've never used a gnome before.
I've never used gnomes before.
They're these little guys that come out and do the work for you. They're fantastic.
They live in your sewing machine.
They better not, because they are paying rent. Those are gremlins.
Those are not.
Those are not friendly. All right, so let's say you've purchased a 45 fabric that you're going to use for your backing. So, I strongly recommend what you do. I'll draw this. I have a drawing board, Victoria. Goodness gracious. Hold on. Let's go back over here.
Holding on.
Holding on. Overhead. Now, Danielle did a video on piecing a 45 for your backing, kind of a quick and easy method.
Yes.
Where you open it fully up. Zoop. You have a 45-ish. So you have your selvage edge up here and your selvage edge down here. And you fold this corner over to that corner.
Okay.
And then you sew across.
Okay.
And then you cut off that extra. Okay. This gives you a magically sewn together 45. It's amazing. You need to go watch that video. It's on the YouTube channel, how to quickly piece a backing with a 45.
So you cut on the fold?
Well, yeah, you would cut that. Well, no, you cut your selvage seams off. Because you don't want your selvage in your backing.
Right. I'd have to do it. I
will be visual for you guys. Let's say this is your 45. Let's say pretend this is pieced together. You fold this in half. Ta-da! Right face together. You're going to then sew. I usually go about 1 inch down and sew across there.
Okay.
Okay. Then I'm going to take this to my cutting table and I'm going to cut my selvage off.
Oh.
Because I don't want my selvage in my backing.
Right.
Well, and since I folded this over to sew it together on this side, I'm going to then just straight edge cut down that with my straight edge and rotary cutter. And then it opens up to a perfect 2-piece backing situation. Okay? I'm done with that piece of fabric. It was tiny and not helpful. So, I guess I just did all that probably in small screen. I apologize, guys. I should have definitely been closer.
It's okay.
My point of my story is, when I was talking a moment ago and I said that we load our quilts with the top to the bar and the bottom to the bar, having a horizontal seam is a huge benefit to the Longarmer. Okay? Because what we're not dealing with is the extra bulk from the seam. That seam causes all sorts of headaches for us.
Sure does.
I live with it, and it's okay. And I've done it enough times that it doesn't matter. But it can cause problems.
Right.
If we have a vertical seam, and this is tough too, because like vertical seams, again, it's manageable. But what can happen is you're going to find a beautiful fabric that's going to be awesome for the backing, but it's going to be directional. Like you're going to want that to be pointed towards the top of your quilt. It happens every time. So it's manageable. Just again, speak with your Longarmer ahead of time. Let them know.
Yes.
What your plan is there, because what you don't want is having the seam here. They weren't expecting it. You end up with like saggy spots in there because your selvage is a taut edge, your seam's a taut edge, and your selvage over here is taut, so it could potentially leave droopiness. Victoria did not have near enough caffeine this morning.
I'm working on it. I'm so sorry.
Don't fall apart on me now.
I'm not falling apart.
You're doing great, but Lord, don't fall apart. So again, vertical seams are great, but preferably horizontal.
Yes.
Okay.
Got it.
What do you do if you have a backing that's pieced? Like I had an orphan block, and I went ahead and I just built my backing around that.
Oh, that's a really cool idea.
Yeah.
We pray.
Do we really?
Yes.
Okay. I do have my
I don't really know. I don't remember what we do with piece backings. I just remember that there was like some tension, like because it's all pieced, you have to fight with like the tension of it.
Every seam creates a tension point, so be mindful of that. What I tell my customers, and especially people in the rental class, is if you're going to piece your back, the time and effort you put into piecing the top should be at least that or better for the backing.
Yes.
Okay. Also, what I recommend is, I'm going to go back over to my screen over here for a quick second. Let's say you have your backing, you've got this cute little Ohio Star block thing.
Cute.
I don't know. I'm not an artist, but okay. Let's say you want that and you want to put it in your back. What I would strongly recommend you do is piece it in.
Offset it.
And have it offset.
Yep.
Okay. Do not perfectly place that in the middle.
Nope.
Because landing something perfectly in the middle is super difficult.
It ain't gonna happen. Like
it can with a whole lot of planning and working with your Longarmer to make sure that's how it goes. But if this is a new Longarmer you've never used before and you throw this at them, not a great start to the relationship.
They might cry a little bit.
Maybe, and they'll be like, okay, it's fine. But if you offset it, we will make sure that it's where it needs to be. It takes a little bit of, that crazy stress off your Longarmer. Again, we're here to try to make our life easier for the Longarmers, and that way we're not as worried about it when we leave the store or their house or wherever we're dropping it off at. Okay? All right. So that's that information on that.
Cool.
Right here.
Cool. Kind of already talked about this.
Battings. Okay. Battings are personal choice.
Yeah.
Right? Do you have a personal favorite?
Bamboo.
Really? Why?
I love bamboo.
Why?
I found that it's super easy to work with.
Okay.
As a Longarmer. Also, it just feels nice because it's very, very light.
Okay.
Very, very breathable. And I also am a huge fan of like renewable resources, which is bamboo and cotton and things like that. So
natural fibers.
Natural fibers.
Sure.
It's also, I think, biodegradable.
It should be. I mean, it's bamboo.
Awesome.
Natural.
Anyway, those things make me happy.
Don't eat it.
I wasn't planning on eating it. I'm sure it's treated at least a little.
Yeah.
And I don't need that kind of negativity in my life. Yeah. So.
Question for you: can you piece your battings together?
You sure can. We call that frankenbatting.
That's called frankenbatting. You absolutely can piece your battings together. I get a lot of customers that get their quilts picked up, they take their scraps home with them, and they end up getting these piles of leftover batting.
Right.
And most people stick with a type of batting. Sometimes they'll stick with the 80-20, or they'll stick with the cotton, or the whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And then so you have all these extra little pieces, so then what do I do with them? Well, you piece them together, and you now have a bonus batting.
Woo!
Woo! It's almost free, like, sort of, kind of. You paid for
girl
it,
math.
But yeah, girl math. It's been paid for, so now it's free.
So technically it's free.
Technically it's free.
Because you've already paid for it.
How do we piece them together? What's the best method for piecing them together? Do you have a preference?
I've never pieced a batting together.
You are a lucky soul then. Okay, well.
I usually ask somebody else to do it if it needed to be done, so.
My personal recommendations are this. If you have a polyester batting, so you have fluffy. Well, first off, let me back up. Keep like battings together.
Yes.
Cottons, polyester, 80-20, whatever it is. Make sure you're not trying to mix a flat 80-20 with a lofty polyester. That will not work as well as you want it to.
I wonder how it would look in a quilt.
Again, if you're trying to work with your Longarmer so they don't want to throw you out of the building, don't do that.
That'd be a fun experiment.
It would be cool to do
for a Longarmer. Like
for us to do it for funsies. Honestly, it wouldn't really be the worst case scenario. Mm-hmm. It's going to obviously change the way your quilt looks.
Yeah.
I mean, again, just depends on what you're going for. There are no rules in quilting. Do what makes you happy.
Is my quilt going to be like?
I don't know.
I don't know either. That would be crazy.
I've never done this situation. So, if you have poly, what you want to do is whip stitch your poly battings together. Mm-hmm. I found that to be the easiest way. You just take a thread, a needle, and just kind of just do a doop-de-doop together to pull them together. It doesn't have to be crazy tight. You don't have to take it to the sewing machine. It just has to be held together long enough for it to be used.
Yeah.
That's not that big of a deal.
No big whoop.
Okay. If you're working with a flatter batting such as 80-20 or cotton or bamboo, a couple options. One, butt the fabric together. Mm-hmm. Okay. Take it to your sewing machine and do a large zigzag and just zigzag across it. Okay. Don't fold it over and seam it. That will give you an awful amount of bulk. But if you butt them together and just stitch across it with a zigzag, that will hold it together nicely.
Yes.
Or rolled interfacing tape, which is really nice, especially on natural fibers. I'd be very cautious with an 80-20 just because that poly can be a little melty.
Yeah.
But cotton, bamboo, anything that's a natural fiber, wool, put that interfacing tape on it, hot iron to it, and it seams that together without all the sewing and all the whip stitching and all the other stuff. Mm-hmm. However you do it, I just say do it. Don't let them batting things just sit in the corner and collect dust, and because I don't know what to do with all that batting. So, all right. I have seen a comment I have to address. Yes, Angie, I'm missing Academy. I'm sorry. Angie owns a shop up there in the northern states.
Got it.
Her and Rick are awesome. They're cool. They're HQ dealers also. But yeah,
that's fun.
It wasn't my year to go, so I'm here holding down the fort.
There.
She is. That's why she's probably yelling at me.
Oh, got it.
I take it. Carol says that she pieces on her long arm with a snaking kind of stitch. Yes, ma'am. You absolutely can do that. Use that machine to your advantage, right?
You got the room. It's holding it.
Just a big open stitch and just kind of grab that together. Absolutely. Again, the whole idea, just secure it enough so that it doesn't shift while you're quilting with it. That way it can be used. Once your quilt is quilted, it's not going to matter. Nobody's going to see that seam. Nobody's going to know it was pieced together. Nobody's going to feel slighted that you used a frankenbatting on their quilt.
Ain't nobody going to know the difference.
Nah, it'll be fine. Okay. Perfect. What's next? So that's battings. Any questions on battings? No?
Nope.
Oh, what? I forgot I put that in there. be mindful of what you're attempting to use as a batting, please. If you got Uncle Teddy's old lead-lined cot cover, it's not a batting.
That's not a batting.
Please don't.
That's for a fire.
I've had folks that have been asked to use like a heavier canvasy type material as a batting just for like weight. I would have politely declined to have done it because you got to remember, if you're asking a long armer to do something for you, or if it's your own long arm, I mean, I'll do it with mine because I know who's going to fix it.
Right.
But remember that if it's something that could be slightly sketchy and your long armer's like, no, don't be offended by that. They put some money into that machine and they're looking out for the safety and well-being of that machine. So not something we run into often, but always keep that in mind. Okay? So don't get crazy on them. Tops. Your quilt top. This is the thing you've worked forever on. It's the most important part of the process. This is the roof. If you do not have a roof on the house,
you will cry.
It's just some walls. I mean, you have a...
It's a maze.
It's amazing.
You have a maze.
You have a maze. It's a weird maze that you put too much money into. So you've got your quilt top. What is the best thing you can do with your quilt top? You can read my notes, but you don't understand them.
Nope. I was looking at them trying to answer that question, and I don't.
Okay. Couple things. Number one, squarish. Squarish, squarish. All right.
Yeah, what does that mean?
So I say squarish because what I'm trying to avoid is saying make your quilt tops perfectly square. How many out there have ever finished a quilt top and it was perfectly square? I have not. I raised my hand in demonstration of what you should do is raise your hand. But here's the fact of the matter. Of the quilts that I've seen come through the store, like 2,000, 3,000 plus, like I've taken in plenty and I've done my fair share of them.
Yes.
Very rarely, probably one hand, did I count the number ones that were square. Maybe two hands. Most of your moms were super fantastically done, but that's besides the point. It's more common than you think, but square is always a tough challenge to get to. It's tough, especially if you're new and you don't know what you're doing and you're really just trying to accomplish. That's awesome. When I say squarish, this is what I'm talking about. Sometimes what we'll do is we'll get quilts in that have a piece sewn on them. And you've got these extra little ears of stuff hanging off the sides. Okay? You want to avoid that if you can. Do yourself a favor, put a straight edge ruler on there if that's what you're working with, and clean that up. Okay?
Yeah.
If you're working with a quilt that doesn't have a border, what you really want to try to avoid is anything that kind of looks like a graphic equalizer. Again, try to find that happy medium between the two and give yourself a nice straight edge there. I'm not asking you to tear your whole quilt apart and re-sew it all. No. You put a lot of time into it, but you can't bind it like this and you can't bind it like this. So those pieces are going to get cut off anyway. If you don't want to deal with them ahead of time, that's fine. Let your long armer know. They will sew them down, and when they trim the quilt, that'll all get trimmed off. Okay?
Yes.
Again, if you are concerned with disturbing your long armor, this might not be a terrible option ahead of time. But again, most of us will work through the pain.
Yeah.
Okay? Even though I'm a perfectionist, I am off 1/8 to 1/4 inch. Yeah, I mean, sometimes we're off on these things, but that's okay. Nobody's judging. An 1/8 to 1/4 inch on squarish is quite phenomenal. So I went to the overhead because I want to talk about borders. What do you know about borders? What do you know about them?
I love them so much.
Okay. What's the purpose of a border?
To frame the quilts that you just spent all that time making pretty.
It does a really good job of that. It adds size to the quilt.
It does also add size.
But more functionally, what are the borders good for?
You know, that's a great question. He keeps throwing these curveballs at me and then not helping me in his notes here, so I don't really know what I'm supposed to.
That's okay. I'm going to give you a second because I'm going to address Miss Vicky's question about scalloped edge. Scalloped edge is a whole nother monster. If you have scalloped edge, again, just be mindful of your long arm that you're talking with. You don't necessarily want to square those off. Scalloped edges are a obvious decorative choice that's been made, and that's totally fine. If your quilt pattern said that it needs to be a square at the end, that's the one that we were concerned with the flappy edges hanging off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying not to discuss the scallops because I've seen it done. It's gorgeous. It's really cool. You'll see it a lot with double wedding rings. They go out to the edge, and so they have that nice gentle curve all the way around. They look absolutely timeless. I do love them. For long armors, we work through that.
Yeah, we make it
manageable.
Same with prairie points.
Letting them know that that's what you're bringing to them, so they kind of mentally prepare for that may help them out a little bit. Again, for us, you just drop it off and we'll say, okay, cool, and it'll be fine.
We make it work.
But yeah, so again, there are exceptions to some rules. Some are scallops, some have other specific type of bindings. Maybe you're doing something modern-y, and it's got a wild edge to it. That's cool. Not for me. I like squares.
Yep.
Squares are fun.
That is more my speed.
But let's talk borders again.
Yep, back to borders.
So aside from adding size to your quilt, and aside from just being pretty and adding accent to it, the functionality of them is to help corral and deal with the bias that you created while piecing all those blocks together.
Yes.
Okay.
So it doesn't help with that though. Just throwing borders on and chopping the rest off.
It's true. There are patterns out there I've read in patterns that were published that are bought by customers. Just add the fabric and cut off the excess. Don't do this. Please don't do this. Good idea. That would not be what I would consider the proper way to complete a border on a quilt. The reason for this, what I have found, is that if you just do that, it creates a whole lot of fullness.
Sure does.
What does fullness lead to, Victoria?
Puckers.
Puckers! Nobody likes a pucker in their quilt. Nobody likes to see that happen. But when there's so much fabric in that material, or in that border, I've had instances where I've literally had enough material that I could fold the quilt over, or fold the fabric over, line up the borders perfectly fine, and then I would stitch it across and secure it. I don't like doing that, but I was mid-quilt and I ran into it and I realized this is not great. Yes. As a long armor, I am not going to take it off and try to unstitch everything and reattach your borders. Okay, so let's talk about how to properly add them.
Yes.
You okay with that?
Absolutely.
This is a quick, rough, easy run through of it. All right, are you ready?
So ready.
Perfect. All right, so back to the whiteboard. Do I use red or do I use purple? Let's use purple this time.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll probably use a couple of different ones. Okay, so let's say here, you've got your beautiful quilt top. You spent all that time piecing. Okay?
Yeah.
You got your border fabric. I'm ready to cut it. It's my 2.5-inch strips. They're cutting my 2.5-inch strips because I'm going to add an inner 2-inch border, right?
Yes.
So first thing I'm going to do, I'm done with the purple.
Okay.
We're going to go to red. I'm going to take a measurement on my side. I always add my sides first. I personally like the appearance of the sides shorter and the tops longer.
Yes.
Okay. This is my personal preference. There's probably a more realistic reason why to do that, but I digress. So we take our first measurement. Let's say this is 52.
Okay.
Okay. And then I'm going to measure my other side. Let's say this is 53. Because realistically, bias can do that to your quilt.
Sure can.
Okay. Then we're going to measure down the center. This, let's say, measures out at 52.5. All right. Now, what do I do with this information?
Cry.
No. We're going to math this together. We're going to average it. So average, what does average mean?
Add them all up and divide by the number of points that you have.
Yes, ma'am. Add them up.
Algebra. I don't.
52.5 and 53. So 0.5, 7, 157. And we're going to divide that by 3 points of data, right? So that's going to be 5. This is going to be 2. And this is going to be 5.
Great.
So 52
Glad he knew what he was
and a half inches.
Cool.
Okay?
Yes.
So I'm going to cut or create 2 pieces of fabric that are 2.5 inches wide by 52.5 inches long.
Yep.
Okay? Then I'm going to take that first piece that's 52.5 inches long. I'm going to pin it here. I'm going to pin it here. I'm going to pin it in the halfway point. So I'm going to fold it together, find halfway, I'm going to pin that.
Yep.
Then I'm going to split the difference. I'm going to pin here, and I'm going to pin here.
Sure am.
All right. Now, well, Jason, your fabric's 52.5, but your edge is only 52. So the fun part of this is that I now have to work that in. Work that in. I'm going to start sewing at my first point, and between here and here, I'm going to do my best to make sure there's not a whole lot of fullness.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to work with that fabric a little bit. Try to keep my 1/4 inch seam, but I'm going to work it in. I'm going to do the same between the next 2 pins, and by the time I get here, it should land right at the bottom edge, and it should line up perfectly. Okay?
Yes.
We're going to do the same on the other side, where we're going to pin, 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 pin. Again, corners first, middle, then split the difference.
Yep.
And then again, sew it on, and as you work your way down, work in that extra in between them, and that suddenly, once you're done, your 2 sides are going to be 52.5 inches.
Sure are.
Okay? You're going to do the exact same thing across the top now. So now, go back to purple. Oh no, we're going to put a blue border on it. So I got that on there, and then that on there. Now I'm going to measure the other way. Boy, there's so many markers in my hands right now. Measure across the way, measure across the way, and then across the center. Same process.
Yep.
Average, cut it, put it on, pin it, go. Okay? Any questions on that?
Nope.
If you follow this method, no matter how crazy wonky the inner of your quilt was, you are going to get a much nicer, much cleaner, much squarer quilt.
Yep.
Okay? You could add 3 more borders using the exact same method, and every time you keep that dimension the same, it keeps that quilt framed where it needs to be. Why is this important?
Keeps bias under control.
Keeps bias under control, and it keeps your Longarmer happy. Remember that whole, it'll quilt out? I don't have to worry about it quilting out.
There's nothing to quilt out.
There's nothing to quilt out. That said, that quilt top, if there was some, let's say just slightly shady piecing that took place in there, and maybe a little bit of fullness in there, but a little bit of fullness in here and small piecing is a lot easier to deal with than a lot of wonkiness happening in our borders.
Yes.
Okay?
Okay.
All right. All right. Pam loves making her Longarmer happy. We appreciate you doing that. As a Longarmer, speaking for some, maybe most, not all, we love being kept happy. It makes everybody's day better. Okay.
Okay.
I think that's all about that. Then I did bring up threads. Let's talk about threads real quick.
Yeah.
What do you know about thread?
They hold everything together. They are the glue that keeps us going.
They are the threads that tie and bind and all that stuff.
Yes.
Okay. Most Longarmers have their own threads. They have their own brand that they prefer to use.
Yes.
Sometimes they have their own color choices that they prefer. If you have a special request, I'm going to recommend that you have that conversation with your Longarmer. Do not be afraid to ask the questions. They will be able to give you the answer.
Yes.
I like my Omni. It's a 40 weight. It's a matte finish. It doesn't really stand out on the quilting.
Doesn't take away from your quilt at all.
Have a special request for maybe a more shiny thread or something different, or you want to bring your own in because I found this perfect color, make sure you talk with them about that with the open-mindedness of expectation. Okay?
Yes.
If you bring me this perfect purple color that you found that was some brand that I'm not familiar with, I'm not going to be real ready to put that on my long arm because I don't know how it's going to act.
Yes.
And I could spend way more time trying to figure it out than not. So I have a ton of colors to work with. I will find one that's absolutely really close. I may try yours first to make sure I could make it work. I won't say no. Normally I try to work with you.
Yeah, we try to work around.
But I would strongly encourage you to don't go in there with it. It has to be this.
Yeah.
Because that gets real tough for long arms. Again, we're trying to keep them happy. We're trying to make you leave knowing they're not going to take it and set it on fire.
Yes.
They won't. That was an exaggeration.
I don't think I've ever set a quilt on fire.
No, I have not. Not once.
I think I would cry.
I've almost set my machines on fire. I've almost taken them to the creek. It wants to act like it lost its mind. It's going to the creek. But that's not your problem as the piecer. That's my problem as Longarmer. Right. You don't need to know about that. Right. But do you know it some days? Okay.
All right.
So, not all threads are created equal. That was the main gist of that one.
Pretty much.
All right.
They don't all like I feel like everyone has their own comfortability with their machine and their threads, and the last thing we want to do is work with something we're not comfortable with, and then our result is below par.
It's mainly that. It's really trying to keep that standard of expectation. Like we have a standard. If it doesn't look right, it's not going home with you.
Correct.
Kelly will rip quilts out. Danielle set that standard forever ago. It's a really good standard.
It is.
I really love it. There's a reason why we keep a 3-month backlog. So if you bring me something and tell me to work with it, I'm going to do the best I can. But if it doesn't meet my standards, can't.
Right.
Or you're going to sign off that, nah, it's fine. Anyway, but we try to avoid that anyway.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
All right.
How was that for information, guys? Did you feel that was useful? Was it good? Did you like it? Did you take something away from any of this? I love the feedback. Don't be afraid to share with me on that one. Otherwise, at this point, I think I'm pretty much covered everything I need to. I'm not seeing any questions over in the comments from anybody, so not a whole lot to respond to there, which is fine. It's going to be hot today. If you want to get out of the house, but you don't want to be outside per se, come visit me. We have some amazing deals going on with Janome right now. I've got a great pricing situation going on with Handy Quilter.
Yes.
You really need to come talk to me about that.
Yep. Sure do.
And then, outside of that, I got nothing else. You got anything else to add?
Nope.
Nope, you're good. Well, guys, it's been a blast. I've had fun. I think we're going to get out of here, go get the shop open. You guys have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye.